What do you have in the way of pets? You have a dog, you have a cat, you have a hamster, you have a lemur. Whatever you have, it may well be that you would describe them as a member of the family. And as you think about estate planning, I think lots of us think about our family and, what we're going to leave behind, all those sorts of things. But what happens to your pet? If you don't specifically make a plan in your will for your pet, what happens by default? We're going to talk about that today. Erin Bury is co-founder and CEO of Willful. They're an online will preparation company, and she's got thoughts. She has lots of thoughts on this topic. Hello, Erin.
Hi, Bruce.
I am a cat. We're a cat family. It is not technically my cat, but I'm quite obsessed with our cat named Newt. He's named Newt, and he's 4. How common is it for clients of yours, for people that are in your world, to include their pet in their will? Is this becoming a thing?
It is absolutely becoming a thing. We plan for our fur babies just like our actual babies. And sadly, I don't have pets yet. I grew up with dogs. I will be getting a dog if my husband is listening to this. But for those who do have pets, about a third are actually leaving a cash gift to them. And more than that, are appointing a pet guardian for their care. And most people don't know that you can even include your pets in your will. So I think that's a pretty good number.
Yeah. Cash gift. And how would one think about that cash gift? I mean, my cat's not going to the pet store on their own to stock up on catnip and cat toys. That amount would probably go to someone, what, for their care?
Well, there's a famous German Shepherd in the United States who inherited hundreds of millions of dollars and even bought Madonna's mansion. I don't know if he had to sign with a paw print. In
Wow.
Canada, pets are not people. They're viewed as property. So when
Right.
you're leaving money to a pet, even Gunther, the multimillionaire German Shepherd, that money goes into a trust. And that trust is managed by a human, or it's just given as a cash gift to the person that takes over care. So, for example, on Willful, you would say, okay, Bruce's sister is going to watch Newt if anything happens to him, and I'm going to leave, $15,000 for Newt's care because I know those vet bills and that catnip can get very expensive, but
Right.
she only gets it if she actually takes on Newt's care.
Right.
Otherwise, I don't want her going to Barbados with that.
Right. Right. You referenced that in Canada, a pet is treated as property, if not, well, I guess they're treated as property, period, but you can, carve out some specifics here. Is that different in other parts of the world?
Well, it's different from how children are treated in Canada.
Right.
So, for example, I have 2 toddlers, and in my will, I have named a guardian. So, if my husband and I were to pass away, then my sister would care for both of them. And that's really up to the family courts. So, she has to go before the family courts 90 days later to get formally appointed. If you pass away without a will, the family courts are going to step in and deal with it. If you pass away without a will, or you pass away and you haven't named a pet guardian and no one wants to take them, unfortunately, the answer is no one steps in, and they ultimately often end up in shelters. And so that's why it's really different. There's no governing body that's going to step in and say, okay, we're going to make sure that these pets are taken care of. They often just don't get taken care of, which is why
Yeah.
it's actually so important just to think about this period.
There's I think, a helpful distinction on the property front, because if I don't specify who gets my dining room set, it's a part of the estate, it gets sold, and then someone gets that money, however that works. With a pet, who makes the call that it goes to a shelter versus, 2 competing nieces and nephews who are both vying for Newt?
Well, exactly. There can often be arguments about it. That's why it's also important to lay it out in the will, because if you say, hey, my sister should get the dog, and the brother is up in arms about it, you can clearly point to my intentions because I wrote them out very clearly in the will or otherwise. If you don't have a discussion and 2 family members are fighting over it, what are you going to do? Go to dog court? There's no Judge Judy for dog disputes,
Right.
right? And so there is this idea of the best way to put your wishes, make sure they come into action, is to actually talk about them, write them down. And this isn't just putting those wishes in the will. This is also listing out key details. I mean, this is helpful even if there's a dog or cat sitter that comes by. What do they eat? Are they on any medications?
Right.
Who is their vet? And is there anything we need to know? When did they have their last shots? I mean, these are all really prudent things that you can record and share with anyone who's either babysitting for the weekend or who would
Mm.
step in if anything happened to you.
One of the things that I recall from the process by when we did our wills was you want to find the balance of general comments and specificity because families can have more kids or there can be things in which if you put names in there and make it too specific, it's problematic. With the pet, do you say the name of the cat, or do you say any and all pets will be cared for by this amount of money who is in the trust fund in case you happen to adopt another dog a month before your passing?
Absolutely. Well, the latter. So if you create your will on Willful, we ask you the name of your current pets and, the breed so that we can say, okay, Bruce is leaving Newt the cat to his sister so and so. And if she does assume care of that pet or any other pets that Bruce has at the time of his passing, please pass on X amount of money, to help out with their care. So you don't necessarily have to get specific, but I think it's nice to read a clause in your will that names your beloved pet. Hopefully you leave enough money that at the time that's meaningful. It's so hard to predict. That is the worst part about pets is their lifespan and knowing that, we may outlive them. But I mean, if once a pet lover, you're always going to have a pet. It just may not be Newt.
You have a pet trust calculator? Is this a thing? How does this thing work?
It is because we often get asked, how much should I leave? And it varies a lot, right? When we analyzed 40,000 wills on Willful, we found, the average gift that people are leaving to someone who cares for their pet is about $10,000. But if you have a horse, it's 21,000. My mom does have a horse. And let me tell you, they're a lot more expensive and they live longer. My mom's horse is 30. So you might need a little bit more money. The cost of dogs changes widely depending on their breed, their size, their age, same with cats. So it's a bit of a calculator that can just help with, okay, what type of animal, how many animals, what breed, what age, and then it takes the average kind of ongoing care and maintenance costs and then averages them out over the expected lifespan of that pet. So it can just give you a bit of a barometer of, okay, if someone took over the care of my pet tomorrow, how much would they reasonably need to be able to care for them?
We've been talking about the will specifically, but for a human, will is one of kind of three core documents. There's also a power of attorney for finances and a power of attorney for personal care, however you call those. I know people refer to those in different ways depending on where they live. Is there a POA for the pet too?
That is an excellent question. Typically, the power of attorney for finances is saying, I authorize you to take care of my financial life, to make sure my bills are paid, to apply for any disability grants, or take care of anything in my financial sphere. The healthcare POA is saying everything related to my personal
Pull
care.
the plug. Just pull the plug.
Pull the
Thank
plug,
you.
put me in a care home or don't, make decisions about pain medications. Nowhere in those documents does it address pets. And honestly, I haven't seen a document that does. So this is a good takeaway for me, Bruce. I'm going to petition
Yeah.
for pets
Well, I
and
think in
POAs.
practical terms, if I lost all my faculties, and my family was no longer here, I would have very clear instructions about what to do with my finances and what to do with my health. Pull the plug. But I haven't written down anywhere who would be caring for the cat in that interim period before my death, provided that's where that was headed.
But that's why the conversation is so powerful,
Yeah.
right? If you've already had a conversation with a pet guardian in your will and you've said, listen, if anything happens to me, will you take care of Fluffy? And they say yes. And something does happen to you, you don't pass away, but you're in a coma or you're incapacitated or in the hospital for a month, then they're probably going to put their hand up and say, well, I know Bruce wanted me to step in, let me take this on. So even just having that conversation of,
Yeah.
hey, would you be willing? Now, again, I've already told my mom, I don't know if I should be the horse guardian. It's a lot of work.
Why not?
I've got two young kids. The barn is pretty far from me, but I'll
Yeah.
do it if I have to. I am not going to leave that horse unattended.
Well, you raise a great point for wills in general, but let's just put a fine point on it here for the pet topic that we're focused on here, and that's disclosure about what's in the will. So it's a great TV moment to have it, opened by a lawyer in a room with dark mahogany walls, and it's this big reveal, but that's not optimal to find out that your the legal guardian for the horse after the death of your family member?
For sure. I mean, there's two categories of people you're appointing in your will. There's the people that are going to hold key roles, your executor who's going to wrap things up, guardian for minor children or pets. These are people you definitely want to talk to first. You want to ask them, are you up for this? Do you have time for it? Do you have the capacity and desire to take on this role? Great. Also, here's where the document's located in case anything happens. The second category of people are beneficiaries. You do not, and usually don't, many people don't want to tell someone, hey, you're in my will and here's how much you're getting, because there can be a lot of sensitivity, family competition. Yeah. And it might just not, it might be something you want to be revealed in that room with the mahogany walls, and that's right. Okay. And you don't have an obligation to discuss it with anybody. But the key thing to know is for an executor or a guardian of children or pets, just because they're named in your will doesn't mean they have to do it. If you pass away and you name Bruce as, Bruce, I'm going to name you as my executor, and you get the call, you might say, no, Newt and I are busy. I can't take that on. And you have a right, absolutely, to decline that role.
Yeah. Really interesting stuff. Erin, thanks for joining us to talk about it today.
Thanks for having me back on the show.
Erin Bury, co-founder and CEO of Willful, the online will platform. And we're talking about pets, whether you should include your pet in your will, and if you do, what you might include.